Paul Romer's idea of developing chartered cities which would be based on Western or Scandinavian ideals, to encourage people from the third world to go there and develop a city which would allow them to have a modern, dignified form of life, has been attacked as racist and imperialist. So even though, welcome to part 3. So even though many of the ideas of Western civilization have been altruistic, have helped people, have developed the very situations which allow people to be born in the third world and second world. If you take, for instance, the Mennonites in the Ukraine, who were German people and Dutch people who were brought there by the Russians under Catherine the Great to develop the Ukraine, is another system where Westernization has allowed greater agricultural input through the Green Revolution. And this continued when they traded with Mongolian people who had settled in the Ukraine, who were the remnants of the Mongolian Empire, to gain corn which was able to, and wheat that was able to survive the harsh winters on the Mongolian steppe. This was traded with them and then taken by a Mennonite family to America and Europe, where it was traded there, and then this develops to be the wheat which feeds the world and feeds most of the third world, which encouraged the population boom there. And of course, the problem with counter-colonization is that people do not have to, it may be in a situation, particularly that woman Emma West, where she noted that she was a minority English person on the tram, and the education system begins to start to change because they don't want rebellion like hers on the tram. The establishment and the New World Order are a counter-organisation. They don't want critical thinking. They don't want people who are... It used to be the case that people who were in the trades, in business, and of course business, I'm not against business as a social democrat, business is a social activity as well, as the cooperative movement shows. But they don't want critical thinking because that would allow people to know just as much as economists or politicians. And this would make people unmoldable as voters. So it's not a democracy, it is a managed democracy. In Russia under Putin, there are certain things which are taboo, which ironically to Europeans seem strange, that Russia should want its national interest to be, as a state or or even as a people, to be articulated as a consensus. You can see this within the Communist Party, the Free Russia Party, or other or Liberal Democratic parties. They are all overall nationalist in terms of Russian identity. Okay, so the need for a managed democracy in Britain arose because, of course, as the Friends of Israel, the Board of British Jews and other people have had an effect on basically clubbing the university system, which is mostly social democratic and nationalistic for the Nordic and Celtic people, over the head with the ghost of the Holocaust and the Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. It's been used as a weapon, as even Norman Finkelstein, whose family were Holocaust survivors, have said. It's being cynically used, which I find quite disgusting, that they would cynically use the deaths of their own families against Europeans who have had nothing to do with the Holocaust, and in most cases the millions and millions of Nordic and Celtic, American and British soldiers who died and German soldiers as well, who may not have been Nazis, who died during the Second World War, to continually try and destroy Western civilization. It's not just the Bin Ladens who want to destroy Western civilization, although the Bin Ladens and Saudis did do 9/11. All these different strands are all connected. So, as I said within a video, the social democracy is between two enemies, both people like the American Republicans, for the most part, who are Zionist, evangelical, ultra-conservatives on the right, and of course Exxon and Halliburton, which are Freemasonry Zionists, ultra-conservatives, who there is some link between those two, but the Republicans and the New World Order, of course, but they are mostly enemies, because neoconservatism is mostly a paternal form of conservatism, you know. Whereas social democracy may only have moderate pan-European nationalists, some conservative, British conservative one nationers, or the social democratic movement itself. And of course on the right there is Thatcherism, which is of course linked to the New World Order, but on the left you have multiculturalism, feminism, which are perhaps culturally Marxist. There, some people give the critique of that, and of course the Soviets, and which have their remnants in Russia, and the Eurasian Union, and of course China, which would like to lead the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, but of course Russia's as a partner is moving on its own independent course. All this is going on, and at the same time you've got Al Qaeda and the Middle East, and the Bin Ladens who did 9/11, who are trying to make global movement out of fundamentalist Islam. So there are many different competing groups. It's not just one elite. It is like if you had a factory with different departments, and they all have they are all in rivalry to each other, but they have a board meeting sometimes. It doesn't mean that they are allies. They are enemies, but they will be in that board meeting to control their own workforce, you know, to keep them in line. So in some sense it is a community of interest rather than a conspiracy. So that's the most important thing to understand, a community of interest. And of course, if we want to keep our own countries, if there will always be an England, if there will always be a West, which is under question, if you haven't seen the question mark in the title, then we have to do things to protect ourselves and to make progress as a civilization, and that would be to stop the parasitical problem of capitalism and develop a true social market by, as Steve Keen said, burning the debt books. As I said, in National Socialist economics, they believed that no private interest should come before public interest, which is a social element which I will agree with even as a social democrat, that the national interest must come before the state, even. That the nation and the state are not the same thing. The nation is those people who are Nordic and Celtic within our European Western civilization, and the state is there to serve those people. Capitalists are there to serve the nation, not themselves. Okay? And so capitalist families should be under the authority of the nation state. Now, Europe is in the process of developing itself into a nation state, which will be federated, which will be social democratic, and I believe that one of the best ways to develop both an increase in Western civilization's territory, which will be chartered cities, which will introduce technology and ideas to the third world, which have since stopped or have never existed before,